good morning, everyone. I will now call to order the March 23, 2023 Clackamas County Board of Commissioners business meeting. Gary Schmidt, Administrator, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Chair Smith. First, our staff support today, Clerk to the Board, Tony Mayernick, Assistant County Counsel, Jeffrey Munns. Commissioner Savas is out ill today, and he's been out ill all week, just to clarify that. Roll call, Commissioner Shull.
Here.
Commissioner West.
Here.
Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Chair Smith.
Here. Please stand, and I'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, good morning, everyone. We are holding this meeting in person and virtually. If you joined us via Zoom for this meeting and are interested in providing public comment, we will prompt you regarding how to do that when the time is right. General public comment will be taken at the usual allotted time. I would like to remind all participants, including staff, all elected officials, and members of the public that Robert's Rules of Order will be followed in this business meeting. We welcome your opinions and look forward to your polite participation. I was going to read a letter today. It's sitting on my desk. But what we're going to do is we're going to, Gary, go ahead and read the first item, please.
Yes, and staff listening, please bring the letter to Chair Smith while we're doing this. First item is the Housing Authority consent agenda. Chair, would you please convene as the Housing Authority?
I will recess as the Board of County Commissioners, and I will convene as a Housing Authority for Clackamas County.
You are now meeting as a Housing Authority of Clackamas County. Joining you online is Housing Commissioner Ann Leenstra. Good morning, Ann.
Good morning.
This is a consent agenda for the Housing Authority. Tony, would you please read the consent agenda?
Housing Authority Consent Agenda, one item, approval of Resolution 1975, acknowledging the financial statement findings and plan of corrective action in accordance with Oregon Revised Statute 297.466 for the fiscal year 2022 audit. No fiscal impact, no county general funds are involved.
Thank you, Tony. Does any commissioner wish to remove this item from the consent agenda? Seeing none, Ann Leenstra, I'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve the Housing Authority consent agenda.
Second.
Ann Leenstra has moved we approve the Housing Authority consent agenda, and Martha Schrader has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, please call the poll.
Commissioner Leenstra.
Aye.
Commissioner Shull.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. What's up next, Gary?
If you please, thank you, Commissioner Leenstra. If you would now adjourn as a Housing Authority and convene again as the board, please.
I will now recess as a Housing Authority and convene as a Board of County Commissioners.
Next up is a public hearing. It is petition for withdrawal of territory from the Canby Area Parks and Recreation District. There's no fiscal impact. There are no county general funds involved. Jeff Munns, Assistant County Counsel, will give a brief presentation. Go ahead.
Thank you, Gary. Yes, and to join us, I'd like to ask Don Morgan from the Canby Area Parks and Recreation Board to come up and join us here at the desk. He's going to be testifying also in support of this, but this matter came to us as a petition from the board of the Canby Area Parks and Recreation District to reduce the size of their district, to withdraw territory, to essentially just the size of the city of Canby and a little bit of small areas north and south of the city. It's been a multi-year effort for them to do so, and they presented some information to us that I shared with you yesterday as far as letters of support from the city of Canby, the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, the Chamber of Commerce, as well as another organization, but Don can speak to that as well. Your role as the Board of County Commissioners is to review these boundary change petitions for these districts in light of the applicable criteria. In this case, a withdrawal of territory from a district, the criteria is it feasible for the district to provide services to the area withdrawn? If it is, then you would deny it. If it's not, then you would approve it. In this case, this district does not have a permanent rate and hasn't been providing services, and so therefore this territory to be withdrawn, it's not feasible for them to provide services at this time. Mr. Morgan can speak more to the future plans of the district and why this step is necessary for them moving forward to then begin preparing, or to then provide services to the district as in the new size that it will become. But this is the process that we're looking at, and then the criteria that's applicable to this situation. The way this process works is you consider that. There is a motion to approve a board order that would withdraw the territory, and then 20 to 50 days from now, a second public hearing is scheduled to determine if 100 individuals have filed a written request for an election. And if there's an election, then that second hearing would result in approving language that would be on the ballot for the folks in that territory and the district as a whole to vote on this withdrawal petition. If we do not receive requests for an election in the proper amount, then this would become a final order that you would consider at that second public hearing. Happy to answer any questions that you have, or I can ask Mr. Morgan to testify in support.
Does the board have any questions for council?
No, this is well understood.
Okay, we're going to ask Don Morgan, you're representing the district. Would you please like to opine on this?
Pardon?
Would you like to testify on this?
Yeah, very quickly, if that's good. As you probably know, this district was formed in the late 60s. It was formed with the intent to build a swimming pool and also to fund the swimming pool. There were two measures in the late 60s. The one to build the swimming pool in Canby passed. The other measure to fund it failed, has continued to not be funded over the years. About every 10 years or so, somebody tries again to get a permanent tax base. They've all failed. In my opinion, a lot of them weren't fully thought out or explained to the public, to the voters. So they normally all went down in like the 60 to 40% range. The current board, well, as an example, normally the rural parts of this district that go clear to, from Canby clear to like to Stone Creek Golf Course on down into Hubbard mailing addresses, those are all mostly negative votes come from that. So in 2011, there was a measure to fund the pool, for 42 cents a thousand was put up. To fund the swimming pool, it failed. And part of that was it was going to take over the funding of the pool from the city. They have a 5-year levy. So it went down mostly due to rural votes. People out in the country just don't really care for parks in the city of Canby. And so the year later, the city put up that measure, the 5-year levy to fund the pool. It passed within the city limits overwhelmingly. So this board that I'm on now, we decided you can't keep going and doing the same thing over and over. So we decided the best way to do it is shrink the district to pretty much as close as we could get to the city of Canby area, and then proceed to shrink the area. That's what we're here for today. Then if that goes through, then we want to go ahead and spend a year or two putting together all the players, come up with a good, well-thought-out plan to present to the voters in a year or two, whatever it takes to come with a plan. The city of Canby has recently completed their park and recreation plan. Their number one recommendation on this plan was to work with the Canby Area Park and Rec District to get a tax base and form a park district that's viable. And that's our plan, is to spend the next couple year or two, whatever it takes, to come up with a good, presentable plan that people will support.
Thank you, Don Morgan, and you're here on behalf of the Canby Area Parks and Recreation District. I wanted to get that on the record.
Yes.
You bet. I will now open a hearing for public testimony. Is there anybody in the room who wishes to testify on the Canby Parks and Recreation District boundary adjustment? Seeing none, Tony, is there anyone online who would like to testify on this particular issue?
If there is anyone who would like to speak on this topic, please use the raise hand feature, and I will call on you in the order received. Madam Chair, I do not have any hands raised.
I will now close the public hearing and ask if there's any further discussion from the board. Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, thanks for coming here, Don. We've known each other for a very long time, and you folks have been working on this project for a very long time. I do think it's a good idea because the city of Canby has a lot of, the Canby Kids I know is still there, and they provide all kinds of sports opportunities for kids. And I think making the district, shrinking it to the city will also help them be able to provide, the kinds of recreation and sports activities that they need. So I'm in full support of this, and it took a while, but I'm glad we got to this place.
Thank you. Any other comments? I will entertain a motion.
I move that we adopt the board order approving the preliminary order of withdrawal of territory from the Canby Area Parks and Recreation District.
Second.
Commissioner Scholl has moved we approve the board order approving preliminary order of withdrawal of territory from the Canby Area Parks and Recreation District. Commissioner Schrader has seconded that motion. For a point of clarification, you're just shrinking the district a little bit to be in alignment with the city of Canby boundary lines, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't want anybody to think that you were eliminating the entire Parks District. Okay, with that clarification, Tony, please take the poll.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Schull.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much. At this point, before we get to, and you are excused, sir, thank you. And before we get to the consent agenda, I'm going to read a letter into the public record that has already been distributed to the right channels. As you know, there is a businessman and property owner named Terry Emmert. He's been very active in the community, as his family has for decades. And as the chair of the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners, I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the many accomplishments and contributions of Terry W. Emmert. Terry is a landowner, a builder, a developer, and longtime resident of Clackamas County. Terry has been a longtime contributor to political and social and charitable life in Clackamas County. Terry began doing business in 1965 in his own name and subsequently under the name of Emmert Development Company. In 1968, Terry founded his transportation and heavy haul business, working under the name of Emmert International. Terry has a proven track record of entrepreneurship and success not only in Clackamas County, but in Oregon, nationally and internationally. Terry has been successful in the development of properties and the transportation of structures and objects that had many considered were impossible to be lifted or even moved. Emmert International has gained a reputation for being able to accomplish the unthinkable. Terry transported such famous objects as the historic Fairmont Hotel in San Antonio, Texas, the Oddfellows Hall in Salt Lake City, Utah, the Hubble Space Telescope, Howard Hughes wooden airplane, the Spruce Goose, a solid rocket booster of the Space Shuttle Endeavour, and a 340-ton rock for the Los Angeles County Museum of Art. Emmert International has moved 184,000 pounds of classified materials for the federal government on a route that traveled through the states of Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California. In our local community, Many have known Terry as a sports enthusiast. Terry's friends include professional athletes with whom he plays tennis and socializes. In addition to sponsoring many youth sports teams over the years, Terry has owned minor league basketball team and the Arena Football League team. Terry is also a well-known philanthropist. Terry is always willing and able to contribute to help raise money for a worthy cause. As one of the largest property taxpayers in Clackamas County, Terry's large property ownership has sometimes led to conflicts with government officials and employees of Clackamas County. Over the years, some government officials and employees may have come to view Terry as a challenge to work with. These conflicts may have had their origins in Terry's ability to think outside the box and come up with creative solutions for problems. Terry's advocacy for his creative solutions and the ensuing conversations with Clackamas County officials and employees has sometimes been challenging for Clackamas County officials and employees to deal with. That has occasionally led to challenges with local government officials and employees where they have viewed Terry's actions as not in being in compliance with local rules and regulations. Terry at times has vigorously disagreed because he believed their application of local rules and regulations was not relevant to modern land use development. About 10 years ago, Terry's conflict with Clackamas County led him to file a lawsuit against Clackamas County. I am happy and pleased to announce today that lawsuit has been agreeably settled by the parties. As chair of the Clackamas County Commission, I want Terry and the public to know that by this letter, I am extending to Terry my deepest apologies and injustices he may have experienced in the past at the hands of officials and employees of Clackamas County. The Clackamas County Commissioners understand that the failure to get approval on some of your projects was difficult and exasperating experience for you. I am personally deeply sorry for the distress this may have caused, albeit over the years there were times when I was not always privy to your issues, nor was I sitting as a Clackamas County Commissioner. The Clackamas County Commission, county officials, and county employees are committed to going forward to working with you on your various companies for the betterment of you and Clackamas County. On behalf of Clackamas County officials and county employees, we all pledge our good faith to be a partner with you in the future, as I know you pledge the same to us. Thank you again for your contributions to Clackamas County. Okay, Gary, you're up.
Thank you, Chair. Next is the consent agenda for regular county business. Tony, would you please read the consent agenda?
Consent agenda, elected officials. Item 1, approval of previous business meeting minutes for the Board of County Commissioners. Item 2, approval of Amendment 1, extending duration and increasing funding to a contract with Mark 43 Incorporated for records and property management software. Amendment value is $208,999.40 for 1 year. Agreement value is increased to $1,218,989.04 for 6.2 years. Funding is through budgeted county general funds for the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office. Health, Housing, Human Services. Item 1, approval of a revenue agreement with Care Oregon Incorporated for the 2023 Dental Payment Incentive Program. Agreement value is $300,000 for 1 year. Funding is through Care Oregon. No county general funds are involved. Item 2, approval of a personal services contract with the Mental Health Association of Oregon for adult peer-delivered services. The Mobile Crisis Response Team. Contract value is $624,234.98 for 22 months. Funding is through the Oregon Health Authority. No county general funds are involved. Item 3, approval of a local subrecipient grant agreement with Living Islands nonprofit for education and outreach to the Pacific Islanders community for the Commercial Tobacco Prevention Community Grant. Grant value is $20,000 for 6 months. Funding is through the Oregon Health Authority. No county general funds are involved. Item 4, approval of Amendment 7, increasing funding of an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Health Authority to finance community mental health, addiction treatment, recovery and prevention, and problem gambling services. Amendment value is $299,790.71 for 6 months. Agreement value is increased to $15,398,689.98 for 1.5 years. Funding is through the Oregon Health Authority. No county general funds are involved. Madam Chair, that concludes the list.
Thank you, Tony. Does any commissioner wish to remove anything from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I move to approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Commissioner Scholl has moved to approval of the consent agenda as read. Commissioner Schrader has seconded that motion.
Correction, that was West.
Commissioner West. Sometimes I get you guys mixed up, believe it or not. Thank you for that. Commissioner West has moved for approval, and Commissioner Schrader has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, please take the poll.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. Gary, what's next?
Next is the Development Agency consent agenda. Chair, would you please convene as that board?
I will recess as a Board of County Commissioners and convene as a Development Agency.
You are now meeting as a Development Agency. This is request for consent agenda. Tony, would you please read the consent agenda?
Development Agency Consent Agenda, Item 1, approval of Amendment 1 to an intergovernmental agreement with Clackamas River Water relating to the Linwood Avenue Improvement Project. Amendment is a decrease of $32,950. Total agreement value is reduced to $130,830. Funding is through Clackamas River Water. No county general funds are involved. Item 2, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Milwaukee relating to the Linwood Avenue Improvement Project. Agreement value is $69,540. Funding is through the City of Milwaukee. No county general funds are involved. Item 3, approval of a public improvement contract with Moore Excavation Incorporated for the Linwood Avenue Improvements Project. Total contract value is $6,820,302.50. Funding is through the North Clackamas Revitalization Area. No county general funds are involved. Madam Chair, that concludes the list.
Thank you. Does any director wish to remove any items from the consent agenda? I'll entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I move to approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Commissioner West has moved for approval of the consent agenda as read, and Commissioner Schrader has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, please take the poll.
Director West,
Aye.
Director Scholl,
Aye.
Director Schrader,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. Gary, what's next?
Next, Chair, would you please convene as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District?
I will recess as a development agency and convene as a North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District.
This is the consent agenda for the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. Tony, would you please read the consent agenda?
North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Consent Agenda, 1 item, approval of a board order authorizing the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District to apply for a local government grant from the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department for the play area at the community park at the Concord property. Grant value is $500,000 with a $500,000 match. Funding is through state grant with match funded by NCPRD Capital Asset Fund. No county general funds are involved.
Does any commissioner wish to remove anything from this consent agenda? I'll entertain a motion.
I move for approval of the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District consent agenda.
Second.
It has been moved by Director Scholl and seconded by Director Schrader. Any further discussion? Tony, please take the poll.
Director Schrader,
Aye.
Director West,
Aye.
Director Scholl,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. Thank you much. I will now adjourn as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners. Gary, what's next?
Next is public communication.
Thank you, Gary. We have a lot of cards here, and I have been criticized much for my handling of the meetings, but what I think I need to do is I need to be consistent. And as you know, there's a while back that we had this room packed and 2 other rooms on different floors packed, and I had to limit the amount of time of testimony. I'm going to have to do that again today. I suspect you're all here for the same reason. I will give everybody an opportunity to say what they needed to say. But I also think it's important that commissioners respond to your questions or comments as the commissioners want to. So first of all, before we get going, this is something that I learned from a previous chair a long time ago. Can I see a show of hands of the people in the room who object to the decision on turnkey that was made yesterday? As I suspected. So I suspect you all are going to say the same thing, so limiting testimony to 2 minutes should be fairly easy for you. And that's what we're going to need to do today, Tony. Although we have people in the room who are not here to testify on Project Turnkey, that time limit will apply to you as well. Thank you very much. Up first, the first card handed in was Paul Edgar. Please introduce yourself, your area of residence, and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Commission. My name is Paul Edgar. I live in Oregon City. I've been very honored to be on your Community Action Board and on your Historic Review Board, Veteran Advisory Council, and somebody who's advocating for homeless outreach and solutions. I've spent a significant amount of time. I've prepared a document that I edited down from veterans, how we should do things with veterans. I hope you all have a chance to see it. But it's about being pragmatic and getting a return on investment. You know, money is relative, the cost of doing things. I built a 8x12 homeless housing shelter in my own backyard as a demonstration of what could be done. It's roofed, walled, insulated, and wired. And it's $2,500. And so to create something like this, I create a platform that's 3 sheets of 4x8 plywood, put enough support into it. I have a lockable door. And these types of housing opportunities are out there. But to make something like this work and not just put a Band-Aid onto someone, one of the things we do with veterans, we have VSOs, Veteran Service Officers. We also have homeless outreach, mental health, drug addiction, and we actually have case management. To make anything go, we need staffing, and we need to encourage people to get into intervention, being committed to making a better world. We need to have tuition forgiveness for a lot of people. We need to have bring people in on fellowships, start early. But what I'm hoping for is to have you evaluate. People like myself step up because we want to make a better world. And I don't want to be window dressing on a community action board. But no one really ever asks us to what our opinion is. So please realize we care, we want to be part of the process, and we will work our butts off for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tony, does the buzzer not work?
Resolving that now, ma'am.
Thank you. I don't like to be the bad guy up here, I really don't. Mr. Edgar, you said something that you thought that we should be asking your opinion, is that right? Okay, that's what we plan to do in the 3-point plan that I presented yesterday. Very large symposium of people, including those in this room. Up next, Joshua Kingsley. Please come forward, state your name, your area of residence, and you have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Joshua Kingsley. I'm the pastor at King of Kings Lutheran Church. on Thiessen Road by Webster. When I'm not doing that, I also coach Little League Baseball. Now is the season, of course. And in that coaching, we talk a lot about things like sportsmanship, right? Being able to take wins and take losses gracefully. We talk too about like how to interact with the umpires, because that's a special job in calling, right? We all know, maybe if we've seen a baseball game, that what the umpire says goes, and even if it wasn't the right call, usually you just can't argue with it because it would destroy the whole system. That system, though, is based on good faith. When that good faith is eroded, people stop listening to the umpire because it seems like the umpire's calling the game for one team. And that's not transparent. And people don't feel good about that in a really deep way. I feel angry and I feel distrustful because we've been working on Project Turnkey for a long time. We've appealed to your reason, we've appealed to your emotions, and we've had a lot of one-to-one conversations with you. And I can perfectly accept that we all have different politics in this room. That's fine with me. But when things get reversed, after a vote has been taken and due process has been followed, it becomes difficult to trust the system. A call for a blue ribbon committee seems disingenuous, and it seems outside of what is needed to happen. People study this issue. We've already looked into it, and many of you, including you, Chairperson Smith, have spoken in favor of this passionately. So we feel surprised, and I'm calling on you all to be a leader and restore good faith in this system. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Up next is Rhonda Frick Wright. Rhonda Frick Wright. Please come forward, state your name, your area of residence, and you have 2 minutes.
My name is Rhonda Frick Wright. I live in Milwaukee, Oregon. I grew up in Milwaukee, Oregon, and I still live there. My husband and I represent a metro-wide Ecumenical Ministries of Oregon program called Second Home. We take homeless high school students in and give them a place to live and support so they can graduate from high school. This is an increasing problem countywide and statewide. Our current student graduates this June. We thought this Project Turnkey would be a great backup for his transition to adult life and are very disappointed in Clackamas County's change of support.
Thank you very much. Up next is Chris Waller. Please come forward, state your name, your area of residence, and you have 2 minutes.
Chris Waller, Jennings Lodge. Chair Smith, on Wednesday, you said you wanted to convene a blue ribbon committee of thought leaders to discuss ways to combat homelessness successfully with proven methods. We already know how to do this. It's called Housing First, and it's what you just voted against. You could have let this project go forward and still convened a committee, if that's what you really wanted to do. We all know that our community doesn't even begin to have enough resources to help people regain stability and control over their lives. But instead of beginning to build that framework, you tore it all down, possibly violating state emergency meeting laws, and threw away hundreds of hours of employee time and millions of state dollars. Someone who is shivering in the cold of a Clackamas County winter, living in constant fear, hungry, and in despair, is in no position to think rationally about treatment. What has been shown over and over again is that if we provide people a stable home, they can begin the journey to wellness. You closed by stating, "We have time to do this. There is no rush." In 2022, 13 people without homes died in the streets of Clackamas County. They were out of time. Please, move away from cruelty and towards compassion and reconsider your vote. Thank you.
Up next, Jeannie Madrigal. Please state your name, your area of residence, and you have 2 minutes.
Good morning, Chair Smith and Commissioners. My name is Jenny Madrigal. I work for ClackCo Workforce Partnership, and I am a resident of Westland. Last month, I was here to provide testimony about how access to secure housing is a foundational step in helping residents find and maintain employment, and how CWP will be here to support the wraparound services. Last month, I listened to Chair Smith share how she witnessed successful housing programs in other communities in our state. I listened to Commissioner Schrader remind us how we need to be merciful and compassionate towards our neighbors. I am heartbroken to learn of the reversal of this decision to move forward with the purchasing of the Quality Inn property. I am heartbroken because I know families, children, and other vulnerable residents do not have the luxury of time for everyone else to come around. I am heartbroken because I was once a 5-year-old child who had to leave my home in the middle of the night with my belongings in a garbage bag as my mother took me and my infant sister to safety, living in a situation with my father who was losing his battle with a heroin and alcohol addiction that had become volatile. I was lucky. We had family who took us in and provided child care for very little money. We lived in one room of a house filled with other family members for many years before we had a space to call our own again. Without the safety net, my mom would have lost her job. Many of our vulnerable neighbors do not have safety nets. They do not have anywhere else to go. Without transitional housing options, they will be forced to stay or move into dangerous situations. The people who are experiencing housing insecurity are not just the mostly men that we see in tents on the side of the road. What you may not see is the mother couch surfing with her children and running out of options. The housing insecure are elderly who have worked hard their whole lives, but their bodies and wallets can no longer keep up in our society. The housing insecure are our veterans who have sacrificed for our country, and most importantly, they are humans who deserve to be treated with dignity. Project Turnkey is just one of the, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Cassie Wilson, come forward, state your name, area of residence, and you have 2 minutes.
Good morning, Chair Smith and members of the commission. My name is Cassie Wilson, and I'm a resident of Boring. This is my first time making it to a meeting in person, and I really wish it were under different circumstances. Chair Smith, I was shocked and saddened to learn of your decision to change your vote regarding Project Turnkey yesterday. As a young person, the housing and homelessness crisis is one that I think about a lot as I watch my friends work 40+ hours a week while struggling to keep a roof over their heads. As a disabled person, I know that people like me constantly fall through the cracks in a world not built for us. Many people are just one financial emergency away from being homeless. Our community desperately needs more options for transitional housing, and this Project Turnkey funding is a wonderful opportunity for our county to use state funds dedicated for this purpose. We already know that transitional housing works. We've seen it work right here in Clackamas County. We don't need to convene more experts to explore the issue and waste more time and resources reinventing the wheel. We need to do what we know works, housing people. I'm studying community development in school and have heard over and over that the way to end homelessness is housing. It's really that straightforward. Having lived in Clackamas County most of my life, I'm growing increasingly concerned about people having to live on our streets during ice and snowstorms, wildfires, and deadly heat waves. We lack the housing people need all along the continuum: emergency shelter beds, transitional housing, and affordable, accessible housing for people of all ages and backgrounds throughout the county. Please do not leave this crisis as yet another for my generation to address. We can't afford to wait. Chair Smith, I urge you to reconsider your decision and support Project Turnkey and the acquisition of the Quality Inn for transitional housing. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. I'm going to say something right here. People like yourself who need housing will not be turned away. That's why we have a very rigorous rent assistance program that the governor is implementing. People who need housing now will not be turned away. And we're currently using the same programs that we always have, and we're taking a different tact on this to try to address the causation of homelessness. And you all supported me in that statement many months ago or a month ago. And I think you all agree we have to figure out why people are homeless. We're not saying that we're not going to do housing. People will have housing. It just won't be at turnkey in a neighborhood where the business owners and the residents have risen up and disagreed with the location of turnkey. And what I would like, and what this board would like, is for maybe you to help us find alternative locations in the county where a project like this would be successful. Up next, Jane Civiletti, please state your name, area, and you have 2 minutes.
Hello, my name is Jane Civiletti. I live in Oak Grove. If I needed hip replacement surgery or an organ transplant, no medical professional would proceed with any treatment if I did not have a safe, secure place to recover, do the necessary therapy afterwards. No decent vet would release an animal if they didn't feel they could manage in their subsequent environment. I wonder if you own a dog. Does it sleep outdoors? If so, would you leave it out if it were ill, hungry, hurt, inclement weather? Your decision to walk away from this structural and financial opportunity is only imaginable if one considers you have other motivations. Thank you.
Up next, Catherine Mack. Please state your name, area of residence, and you have 3 minutes. 2 minutes, excuse me.
Test, test. One moment. My name is Catherine Mock, and I live in Oak Grove. In October 2018, the Clackamas County Housing Affordability and Homelessness Task Force identified the adoption of a housing first model to be a key action to improve housing affordability and to mitigate homelessness in Clackamas County, which is in line with the recommendations from the National Alliance to End Homelessness and is the operating principle of all HUD-VASH, which is the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and Veterans Affairs and Supportive Housing programs. A specific challenge identified related to the recommended model was the lack of available of transitional housing in Clackamas County, which means the use of the Project Turnkey 2.0 and Metro Housing Bond funds for transitional housing is directly in line with needs that have already been identified by the county. On December 21st, 2022, Chair Smith, you showed up to the longest night of the year vigil in Oregon City to remember 348 homeless people in Oregon and 13 homeless people in Clackamas County who have died. You said, "This memorial is held on the longest night of the year as a symbol of the challenges people face living outside in the cold. These are precious souls, our siblings, our children, and our friends. Their lives should be honored not only with this memorial, but by taking action to prevent more deaths." You had an opportunity provided to you with existing state and metro funding that would have allowed you to make good on your words. You said you needed to take action. Nobody is going to be housed by an accountability summit. No one will become warm, safe, and dry because a blue ribbon committee exists. No one will have their life improved by you trying to recriminalize possession of personal drugs. The sudden decision to reject the Project Turnkey housing plan and funding is callous, and this decision by the board is embarrassing. Commissioner Smith, I urge you to once more reverse your vote in support of Project Turnkey funds. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you very much. I stand by my statements made at that vigil. We are continuing on the programs that we said we would. Nobody that wants to be housed is left on the street. Go ahead. Thank you. Mary Sternberg, please come forward. If you want to speak, please fill out a blue card and you can come up and do so.
Mary Steinberg, Damascus, Oregon. I've testified before.
Pardon on your name. I couldn't see.
Pardon?
Pardon me for your name. Thank you very much.
As you know, I'm not a business owner, I'm not a big landowner, and I'm not a millionaire. I'm just an ordinary citizen who sees and hears how popular and easy it has become to demonize all homeless as drug addicts, drunks, and criminals, and how cool it has become to grind your heel into the face of the poor. The Board of Commissioners, with that change in vote, has decided to kick the can down the road, which was terminology that was used at the meeting last month. A blue ribbon task force will not help the people in need now. And I listened to the Board of Commissioners meeting just last week, March 16th, where your housing authority representative reported that there were over 8,000 households waiting 3 to 5 years for affordable housing. So I have a couple questions. You said everybody can get housing, but that doesn't jive with what your housing authority rep said. At that same meeting last week, Chair Smith, you spoke of a conversation you had with Governor Kotek about $10 million that they were not going to award to Clackamas County because of some information lack or something like that. It was like they were giving it to Multnomah and Washington, but not Clackamas. And I'm wondering, was that $10 million meant for a turnkey project?
No.
Okay. Then the other question I have is, does the passage of the $200 million legislative passage for homelessness and houselessness that was passed Tuesday have anything to do with the change in your perspective?
Yes and no. We haven't had those funds yet. We don't know how much we're going to get in Clackamas County. By the way, all 3 counties are having a little bit of difficulty in complying with the mounds of paperwork that the governor is requiring for her emergency declaration. That's separate. Was there another question that you asked? I don't remember.
Well, yeah, that was the $10 million, and then does the $200 million legislation, has that influenced your decision on turnkey project?
No, what has influenced my decision on the current turnkey project, as I said in yesterday's meeting, and I think it's posted online if you want to go back, there is an overwhelming majority of people in the Clackamas County where this is located who do not want this facility there. I have invited them, and I have invited you to sit down and figure out where we're going to do this. And that money will come regardless. But I will say we do need to start addressing and have a good plan for people who go into facilities. Thank you very much. Up next is, I believe the name is it Lorena? Is it Gayette?
Lorena.
Okay. And your last name?
Gayette. So my name is Lorena Gayette. I am a resident over at Damascus, Oregon. I was here previously for the last decision, and to be quite frank, I am devastated to hear the change in the vote because I thought of every person who I've known who has been forever changed by homelessness, including some of my friends who were violently sexually assaulted on the street despite being a 6-foot-tall man. To be quite frank, we don't need more studies. We know all of the data, and the data has shown that the most successful programs are housing first. Transitional housing. This has been shown through many studies. We know what the next steps are, and the next steps are housing people, because housing people is good, actually. The people who are in opposition of the quality and location are the same people who are in opposition of the previous location, are the same people who will be opposed to any location, because in reality, while they say it with their words, their actions show that they don't care about homeless people. There will always be a but to every location. And that will always follow the statement that I care about housing people. It's always a but. We can pretend that the Plan Committee isn't a delay tactic. We can keep playing this game of giving priority to the fears of what might happen over the reality of what is actually happening. But the reality is that people are dying on the street. They're dying in the cold and in the rain. There's push and pull of casting people away from safety and risking their lives is just really causing so many deaths. And I'm urging you to reconsider and to vote again to approve this ideal location. And I urge you to choose compassion and humanity and to choose housing people over people's fears of what might happen, and to please reapprove the acquisition of Project Turnkey 2.0. Thank you.
Up next is Cindy Fletcher. I can't read your writing. Cindy Fletcher. Please state your name, your area of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith and Board of Commissioners. My name is Cindy Fletcher, and I am Deputy Director at Northwest Family Services. As you may know, we have programs that guide adults and youth in Clackamas County, including those exiting foster care, into stable housing and to help keep them there. We work with people who are living outside, in cars, in backyard sheds, or stuck in abusive situations because they have literally nowhere else to sleep at night. I'm here to express my extreme disappointment at Chair Smith's reversal of your vote on Project Turnkey, when our community so desperately needs more options for transitional housing. I don't understand the desire to convene a task force when so much research has already been done. Chair Smith and Commissioner Savas both had wonderful PowerPoint presentations at the last meeting that were full of great data. I feel as if the county has given up free money that could go a long way in helping to stabilize the unhoused residents of Clackamas County. I testified at the last meeting in support for Project Turnkey, and will ask you the same question I did then. If not this, then what instead? People do not find themselves stably housed instantaneously. Transitional housing means clients have the ability to maintain communication, their health, and move out of survival mode. Overcoming these hurdles saves precious time and resources. Transitional housing means a faster end to our current crisis. I think that there's a misperception also of our houseless community. Many of them have simply fallen on difficult times and need additional assistance in getting back on track. That is what transitional housing provides. We were so excited when the board voted to move forward with Project Turnkey because it felt as if the county was ready to use outside funding to provide a much-needed bridge in our system and truly support the work of our team and that of the many other organizations working with the unhoused in Clackamas County. I urge you to reconsider your vote. Make the tough choice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Up next, Kathleen Jeske. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. Okay, please introduce yourself, your area of residence, and you have 2 minutes, excuse me.
My name's Kathleen Jeske, and I'm currently living in Lake Oswego. I've been a resident of Clackamas County since 1969, myself and my family. And I'm not going to read the remarks I had prepared wholly because I was also a teacher for 30 years, and I'm retired now. I taught for 20 years in Canby, and I have heard a lot of reference to children being homeless, and those are the hidden homeless. You don't see that, and you don't know it. You don't see them standing on the side of the street. Maybe they're living in their cars, but I saw it. I saw it at every school I ever worked at, and the schools in Canby were full of homeless children. Canby had the most homeless children in Clackamas County while I was working there. And there are some very sad situations that have to do with domestic abuse, that have to do with children being ejected from their homes for various reasons that cause that. I also have patronized businesses in the exact strip mall where McMenamins is, at Clackamas Town Center. One of my children was born at Sunnyside. My mother died at Sunnyside, and my grandchildren were born at Sunnyside Hospital. That is not a residential area, and those people are already there. It's not going to attract homeless people. There are people without houses currently living there. And so all of this, I just want to make sure I get this last part in because I can't stop thinking about a verse that I knew from my childhood when I think of these kids that are homeless and this decision that is just devastating to me. That verse is, "For I was hungry and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger and you did not invite me in. I needed clothes and you did not clothe me. I was sick and in prison and you did not care for me." And they also will answer, "Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger needing clothes or sick or in prison and did not help you?" And he will reply, "I will tell you what you did not do for me, you did not do for the least of me either."
Thank you very much for
Please
coming
read the
forward.
rest of the chapter before you decide that there's no room at the inn.
Up next is Les Poole. You know the routine. 2 minutes, please.
Yeah, just collecting myself before the clock starts. Les Poole. I lived in the county for over 30 years and have been active on a lot of issues. I'm here regularly. A few observations, one of which is the county moved forward with a decision on Project Turnkey last year. In fact, it was the year before they did. And over time, things didn't work out, and Project Turnkey 2.0 was authorized in 2021. 2.0 gave jurisdictions the ability to consider apartments and other facilities other than motels. I believe the county's housing authority or those involved made a mistake by jumping from one motel to another. We've heard over and over here glowing support for Project Turnkey and how we've worked on this for months. That's true, but it's not germane. The reason it's not germane is that the Quality Inn was a last-minute choice in terms of when it appeared on the horizon. Lack of a better description, it was a rush job. And while we're hearing that this is free money we're losing, or that the chair is mean-spirited, I look at it differently. There was an $8 million grant, which is probably still viable out there.
It is.
The county was $7 million short of the purchase price. Investing $15 million in one facility did not pencil out, and I've seen nothing in spite of all the glowing accolades for the process. I, as someone who does this type of work professionally, saw absolutely nothing that made this choice the right one. So we need to go back to the starting line, and I hope we consider what Paul Edgar said. He provided a viable solution.
Thank you.
One last thing, please, 5 seconds. Every week,
Les.
we authorize
Yes, thank
hundreds
you.
of thousands of dollars. Sorry, folks. Let's
We
all
will
get
keep
uptight with
order
each other.
in the hearing room, please. Please, look, it does not do your cause well, as many members of you are from the faith community, by exhibiting greatest amounts of anger towards people whom you don't disagree with. Up next is Dale Harris.
Good morning, members of the commission. My name is Dale Harris. I'm a retired United Methodist pastor, and I reside at Willamette View Retirement Community. Prior to moving to Willamette View, my wife and I lived in Hillsborough for 16 years. While living in Washington County, I helped organize and run a Family Promise program, which provided short-term housing and meals for homeless families. The program was a project of several churches in the area. I saw firsthand how families could become homeless because of circumstances beyond their control, and how meaningful it was to have them find shelter. Family Promise is a short-term intervention. The solution to the serious homeless problem is multifaceted, but transitional housing is part of the solution. The purchase of the motel would be a major contribution to addressing this serious problem in our county. I have personal knowledge of the Quality Inn, which would be purchased by this proposal. Last fall, 2 cousins of mine visiting from California spent 3 nights there. They commented on how courteous and helpful the more permanent residents of that motel were that they interacted with in the breakfast room each day. Purchasing this motel would make the opportunity available for more homeless folks to have a place to live in Clackamas County. I was deeply disappointed to learn that Chair Smith had reversed her support of this bill. I urge her to stand by her original yes vote and make this transitional housing available. Thank you.
Fumi Tosu. Fumi Tosu, please come forward, state your name, and you have 2 minutes. Area of residence.
Hello, my name is Fumi Tosu, Oak Grove with Dandelion House Catholic Worker, and I am angry today. Chair Smith, for the last 6 months, you led the effort to pass Project Turnkey 2.0 with passion and conviction. On December 8th, you said, I have said many, many times that to do nothing is not an option, and this board will not do nothing regarding the homeless situation. Then yesterday, you reversed your vote and pledged a blue ribbon commission to listen to the public and study the problem, which sounds suspiciously like doing nothing. Your contention that the location is not the right location is disingenuous. On December 8th, you said, we are next to a hospital. We are next to a bus line. We can have groceries delivered to these people who are in here. Quite possibly, this is the very best location that we've been able to come up with. Your words. You know that the causes of homelessness don't need to be studied further while we do nothing. On October 13th, you said, the leading cause of homelessness, according to a 2020 study conducted in the University of California, the high cost of housing is the leading cause of homelessness. So why a blue ribbon commission on drug treatments? In your own words, on December 8th, the most recent study says that the high cost of housing has led to the greatest degree of homelessness. What I would like to know is what changed. I disagree with Commissioner Scholl and West on their vote on turnkey, but I still respect them because I believe they voted their conscience, and I have no such respect for you. Either these 6 months of impassioned speeches were a farce, or your vote yesterday was a betrayal of what you know is right. And it's time that you gave us, the people of Clackamas County, the majority of whom support turnkey, as you know, an explanation. What changed?
Thank you very much. I think you all know what changed. You can watch the session that happened yesterday. It is on YouTube. John Barnes, you're up. Please state your name, area of residence, and you have 2 minutes.
Good morning. My name is John Barnes. I'm a resident of Oak Grove, taxpayer, property owner for 40 years. I'm also a State of Oregon licensed clinical social worker for 43 years. I was here at the last meeting talking about my son, and I'd like to give you all an update. Since I was here last, he visited the emergency room twice, once for a serious medical concern, and once for a serious psychiatric episode. Both times he was released without any recommendation for treatment or follow-up. Thank God it's been cold so that he could be in warm shelter. I don't know where he is now. I don't know if he's alive. We need to do something now. Housing first, we all know works. I plead with you to change your vote, Ms. Smith. Not just the interest of my son, but of all those others who are at risk of death on the street. Thank you.
Thank you. Anna Hosley. Anna Hosley, come forward, state your name, area of residence, and you have 2 minutes.
Hello again, Commissioners. I'm Pastor Anna Hosley, and I live in Oak Grove. I lead the Clackamas Land and Housing Cohort, a collective of communities of faith who want to build affordable housing on their land. But for years, I've heard this county vote no on basic housing infrastructure, even when people were literally giving it away, and instead vote for more time to study homelessness. And we have. I know brilliant minds who are on the Housing Affordability and Homelessness Task Force. Do you remember that? All the way back, started in 2018. And we've been talking about Project Turnkey now since 2020. We have waited for years for our county to allow solutions to this problem. And meanwhile, so have all the people who can't afford the cost of housing. Contrary to what you said, Commissioner Smith, about our robust rental assistance program, my friend with a family of 5 works full-time and still cannot afford a 1-bedroom apartment in this county. He was told recently by CHA that there is no assistance available until he is literally homeless, until he loses everything. So he'll just have to wait. More time is just another way of doing nothing, and I thought doing nothing was not an option. Honestly, I love the idea of ongoing summits around best practices. I'm a nerd, that's my jam, but we have to implement the things we already know while we continue to grow wiser. Commissioner Smith, you have reminded us over and over again that the #1 cause of homelessness in Clackamas County is the cost of housing. I've shown you all this chart before. I know that you know this. There are 24 units of housing for every 100 families with extremely low incomes in our county. We don't have enough housing because we make it inordinately difficult to build, just like you are doing right now. Oregon has the 4th.
Thank you very much for coming forward. Up next, is it Jean Zahari? I'm not sure I pronounced that right. Please come forward, state your name, your area of residence, and you have 2 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Gene Zahari. I'm a resident of Milwaukee, Oregon, and I just want to say to all of you, thank you for your hard work you do for the county and the citizens that live in this county. Have you ever heard the word or the term flip-flop? Most of us have, and it's not a kind remark to make to somebody, but really what it implies is that somebody's changed their mind. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong in changing your mind should you get new information to verify the justification for the change. But Chairperson Smith, you have not given us clear and transparent reasons for your switch in your vote. There's been allusions made to it. There's been some kind of mystery, nebulous thing that's going on, and I'm a little suspicious. Was it on the basis of information you received in caucus with Mr. West and Mr. Shull that you're not sharing with us? Please take a little more time and go to the heart of why you switched your vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Up next is Story Long. Please state your name, your area of residence, and you have 2 minutes.
My name is Story Long. I am a resident of Clackamas County, a pastor and organizer at Storyline Community. I'm quickly altering some of this just to point out that the admonition that people of faith do not yell back is wrong. I follow a Jesus who tipped a table. I will not do that here. But just throwing that out here. Last time, the day we voted on this, the day it passed, I testified with Proud Boys laughing and jeering at me behind me.
That wasn't right either.
while I champion a cause that you were also championing.
It's not right either.
But I wasn't afraid because we brought facts and we brought experts. We brought experience while the opposition brought misinformation and wild stereotypes about our houseless neighbors that you rightfully corrected at the time. You said so passionately that at this point in your career, you didn't think you'd have to be fighting for the woman living out of her car with her 3 kids to have access to housing. But yesterday, in the meeting, you sat up here and talked about Measure 110 and closing the borders and drugs. I want to know, what does that have to do with the woman in her car with her 3 kids who doesn't have access to housing? You may sit up there and say, we have safety nets for those people. But we do not. We have walked with those people through the resources. They are not quickly accessible. And until they are, we need transitional housing or we're going to continue to hemorrhage people onto the streets. The board has said doing nothing is not an option. But when your solution is more committees and more consultations, when everyone who's actually on the field doing the work, your district attorney, Kaiser and Providence, Love One, Father's Heart are saying this is what we need, and you're ignoring them? It feels like you're not interested in what the experts doing the work have to say about this. You've listened to people, so I'm not going to say you're not listening. You are. You're just listening to the wrong people who are speaking from fear and not facts when we know transitional housing works. Thank you, Martha Schrader, for staying firm in your vote.
Up next, Elaine Campbell. Elaine Campbell, please come forward. There you go. Please state your name, area of residence, and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you for inviting us here. My name is Elaine Campbell, and I live in Tualatin, Clackamas. And I'm a native Oregonian, and I'm a registered nurse. And I just want to say I'm here today to offer my support for the Voices of Turnkey and support of. I just want to say why. Why would we do something like this? And the reason that we do this is because what we do for others is what we do for ourselves, okay? Because we're all connected. And I know that sounds like something that's just warm and fuzzy, but there's really more to it. And I'm going to offer you something practical, a personal anecdote. And as a nurse, when I worked inpatient, you would hear overhead and you would hear diversion alert protocol. And what that meant was that you had to discharge patients. You had to discharge them because you had more coming into from the ER, right? You had procedures you had to do. You had a bed. Bed control had to place those patients. So when you have a homeless person that is fully entitled to their own health care and they're inpatient, they may be inpatient for 10 or 5, 10 days. Well, you can't place them. You can't do anything. You can't offer them home health because they have no home. Okay, so back to that warm, fuzzy thought for a minute. Why do we do this? We do this practically because when we help others, we help ourselves. Okay, we help everyone involved. Okay. Finally, I just want to say that homelessness, as we know, is a social determinant for health of an individual. It is also a social determinant for the health of our community. And when you see the homeless population on the streets, that affects all of us as a community. And this is not something that we want to do or that we wish to have this done. This is something that we need to do. We need to do this for the health of our community.
Thank you very much. Up next, Scott Nichols, please come forward, state your name, area of residence, and you have 2 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Scott Nichols. I'm a resident and small business owner in Wilsonville. I've also, for the last 4 years, served on the board of directors for a homeless shelter downtown Rosehaven. The homeless issue has been going on for decades. It's not Measure 110. Okay, decades. Nationwide. It's a complex issue. Do we need better addiction services? Absolutely. Do we need better mental health services? Absolutely. And we need housing. It's not one or the other, it's all of it. We have an opportunity here to get some of our fellow citizens off the streets. Why are we passing on that opportunity? Every day they live on the streets, they're in danger. We have an opportunity here to do the right thing. It's time for action, not a blue ribbon committee to form a committee about a committee. Okay, if you want to do that, great. We can get smarter along the way, and we can do Project Turnkey. We can do it all. We have the money. Spend the money. I don't understand. Honestly, we can't keep blaming Portland for this problem when we do nothing. I know it's politically convenient, but it's not the right thing to do. I hope you'll reconsider your vote.
Thank you. Up next, Susan, is it Rockaway? Susan Rockaway, I'm not sure that name is correct, on Holly Lane. I can't read your writing, sorry about that.
Hello, my name is Susan Rodway. I live on Holly Lane, and I'm a concerned resident and a voter. And I just jot down a couple of things. I'm also someone that cries easily, so be patient. But I want to say thank you for your continued work, because what you do is amazing and is necessary and much appreciated. But I am disappointed with your decision to change your vote, in particular, Ms. Smith. And let's not waste any more time on homelessness. Why would another place besides the Quality Inn be a better location? If we move the place, if we decide to find a different place, not the Quality Inn, the same people wherever we move that place to, they're going to come up with the same reasons why the people around Quality Inn don't want it. So that means now we're just delaying the inevitable that people are still homeless. So turnkey will be a start moving forward now instead of let's find another place. They're going to say no, and now we have to find another place. Let's stick with what we have, and it's something that's in place, and we can move forward, not after a blue ribbon commission realizes it's the same information we already know. So please reconsider your vote on turnkey. Please don't let a few businesses change your mind compared to the voting residents in this room, in my neighborhood, at my church, and in my work. Why would it change your vote? What would it take to change your vote? Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Adam Erickson, please come forward, state your name, area of residence, and you have 2 minutes.
Hi, I am Adam Erickson. I'm pastor at Clackamas United Church of Christ, and I just want to thank you all for your hard work the last 3, 4, 5 years working on and thinking about Project Turnkey. Chairperson Smith, as you started off saying that we are all probably going to say the same things, you have heard so many great things already today about this topic, and I've been in a little bit of a Twitter conversation with Commissioner West, and thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Commissioner West says we are unified in solving this, and we are actively on it. And I want to hear more about that actively on it beyond the blue ribbon thing from you guys. What does that mean to be actively on it and to be unified?
We will address that when everybody has a chance to testify.
I can give up my last 1:15.
Sir, we're going to go through the blue cards first, and
Okay.
then this board is prepared to address your comment on that and some of the others. Is there anything else you would like to say?
Thank you for your hard work, and I hope that we can work together on solving this issue
Well,
as
I'm
soon
going to
as
count on
possible.
you working
Thank
together
you.
with us in a
I'm
more
gonna count on
broad
it too.
and a
Thank
more
you.
close conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, Jana Hack. Please state your name, area of residence, and you have 2 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Yana Hack, and I'm a resident of the unincorporated part of Clackamas County. I have been a provider of housing and social services for more than a decade now, and I have to say that it has been a truly transformative experience. It is an experience that I wish everybody here could have. It is incredibly powerful to witness people with the greatest disadvantages you can think of to overcome the barriers and become independent drivers of their lives. In most cases, they cannot do it on their own. The barriers for someone who has been living without a roof above their head are too high. People transitioning from homelessness need a community to rely on and to teach them new skills and services to support them while they are learning. A community like ours in Clackamas County and services like transitional housing. It has already been proven that transitional housing gets people off the streets, it gets them stabilized, it gets them clean and sober, it gives them the time and opportunity to start anew. It works. Now it is up to our community to show that we can do some work too. For years, I have heard that it is not a question of the will to get people off the streets, that it is a question of insufficient funds. Well, now, since the Metro bond has been passed, and since a priority is given to housing services from the state leadership, we have the money. So the last thing we need to solve is the will still there? The last few years in Clackamas County looked really promising. But after yesterday, I'm not that sure anymore. So I'm turning to you as our county leaders today to answer that question and prove that the will is still present. I'd like to confirm that you still consider homelessness to be the most burning issue in our community and that eliminating it is still a priority for you.
Thank you very much.
Please reconsider your vote on Turkey. Thank you.
Next, Janie Gullickson. Janie Gullickson. Please state your name, area of residence, and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chair Smith and Commissioners. My name is Janie Gullickson. I live, vote, pay taxes in Beaver Creek, Oregon, down the road a piece. And I am the Executive Director of the Mental Health and Addiction Association of Oregon. We are a peer-run organization with 150 people who used to be homeless for many reasons. I am able to do these things because I am also a person in long-term recovery who for the last 7 years of my 22-year addiction was spent on the streets. I just want to say very simply, no roof, no recovery. If I needed to rent a place right now with 17 felonies, I would be turned away. I'm so fortunate that I was able to have a career and buy a house. And I love Clackamas County, and I know you all do too, and don't make your decisions lightly. But really, I've heard it said before, the people that are causing the disturbances in the neighborhoods are people who are living in desperation, and I've been there, and it immediately changes when you have a roof over your head and support and a community that rallies behind you and says, I know you can do it. And so I ask that you change your mind, and you mentioned Terry Emmert, and I know his heart is to, he's a great businessman in the community, a little eccentric at times, and also purchases houses for people in recovery because he too knows no roof, no recovery. I don't know if he says that phrase, but he has had to deal with the not in my neighborhood too, and we've seen it all work out, and we become good community members. So please give us a chance to get out of desperation and into those houses or apartments or a hotel. So,
thank you very much for coming forward. Up next, and this is the last card I have, Rick Dodge. Please come forward, state your name, area of residence, and you have 2 minutes.
I'm going to see how much applause I can get here. Rick Dodge. I live in Clackamas County, native Oregonian. And if I had more time, I would say what I was going to anyway. Measure 110 and the open border, southern border, is part of the problem, if not a major part of the problem. I totally disagree. Fentanyl are killing our kids, our grandkids, and the cartels are here. They are here. They're in Seaside, they're in Cannon Beach. The leader of one of them lived here in Oregon City. He was deported, and he's probably back because he has about 5 or 6 aliases. Nevertheless, Portland, Gresham, we're surrounded by that. That's part of the problem, that our state is a sanctuary state. I don't know if they are still. There's a county in a blue state somewhere in the United States. I saw a couple of months ago, and I was stuck to the back of my mind. This county wanted to remove themselves from being a sanctuary, in a sanctuary status, because they are experiencing the same problems. Now, thank you, Chair Smith. They're going to love this back here. Thank you. I totally agree with the opportunity to take the time to make this right. Commissioner Schrader, if that Veterans Village is so successful, to me, the main reason is where it's at, its location. Now, our state is...
Thank you very much. I do have one more card come in. Cole Merkel, please come forward, state your name, area of residence, and you have 2 minutes.
Chair Smith and Commissioners, my name is Cole Merkel. I'm one of the co-directors of the Here Together Coalition, and I'm a resident of Oak Grove. As a longtime advocate for solutions to our homeless crisis, I was frankly elated by this board's vote last month for a state-funded purchase of transitional housing. This vote came after more than 6 months of discussion, review, and community engagement on this specific property, and 2 years of the county considering turnkey. Chair Smith, you even noted my patience with the protracted process in response to my email thanking you for your vote. Yesterday, during that surprise vote rescinding support for desperately needed local solutions to our housing and homelessness crisis, you suggested that what we really need is more talk and more studies. And with all due respect, Chair, we've been studying this issue for too long. I was a member of the Clackamas County Commission's Blue Ribbon Task Force on Housing and Homelessness from 2018 to 2019. The primary takeaways from that body of work to this board: we need more housing opportunities and greater support services, exactly what the Quality Inn promises to provide. Then, after passage of the region-wide supportive housing services measure, the BCC convened a special committee to draft its local implementation plan, which was unanimously approved. This document outlines the board-approved homeless strategies for investing $420 million that will receive from the people and businesses of Clackamas County over the next decade. A central tenet of that plan is to leverage other sources of funding, both state and federal, to make local dollars go further. The Project Turnkey vote was an opportunity to do just that, leverage state dollars to make our local investments go further. And this is turning down $8 million from the state of Oregon that will be redeployed. It will go to another community. So I'm here today, Commissioner and Chair Smith, to ask you to reconsider your vote and to move forward with a hotel purchase of the Quality Inn. Our most vulnerable residents are counting on us. Please do the right thing.
Thank you very much. Tony, is there anybody online who wishes to testify?
I will begin with Alyssa Walker Keller. Alyssa, please state your name and area of residence. You will have 2 minutes.
Hi, Alyssa Walker Keller from Milwaukee.
Chair Smith, the reversal of your vote for Project Turnkey will cost family stability and children's futures in this county. I suspect you heard fear-centered stories when you abruptly decided to rescind your vote. Those stories didn't include families like those of my son's classmate who experienced homelessness for the first time after a devastating fire at the holidays. It didn't include the story of a student I worked with from Putnam High School who lost housing when the family she was living doubled up with moved away. Her father had to move into their car, and he placed her with an extended family member who attempted to sexually assault her. This child was no stranger to trauma, but it was this incident that left her feeling truly hopeless. If a transitional shelter like Turnkey had existed, this might never have happened to her. There are people who want to be housed in our county and are being left behind right now, and will continue to be with this vote change. There are real, immediate consequences for families when there is insufficient transitional housing in this county to turn to. New committees and task forces and discussions over Measure 110 just mean that we lose state allocated dollars to benefit families in this county. Existing facts and studies that have already been organized by some of the very experts you want to incorporate into a new task force already prove that housing first is the most successful way to stabilize those experiencing homelessness. The 2021 homeless count showed just 16% of our homeless residents in Clackamas County also have substance abuse disorders. The direct outcome of your decision today is a delay not only in care for them, but for children too. And these children will be forced to suffer educational interruptions. Their families will be forced out of their home community in Clackamas County without transitional housing. Chair Smith, inaction in the end has its own consequences. You were elected to the deciding body that says whether our community takes advantage of this opportunity to provide relief. More task forces and hesitation will not solve the crisis you were elected to address. You don't have to be the bad guy. Your hands are not tied.
Thank you
Your
very much.
courageous leadership.
Thank you very
will
much,
make a
Alyssa. Tony, who's next?
Continuing with Ann Meter. Ms. Meter, please state your name and area of residence. You will have 2 minutes. Ms. Meter, you are muted. We will return to Ms. Meter. And next, Mr. Bill Weir, please state your name and area of residence. You will have 2 minutes.
Good morning, Chair Smith. This is Bill Ware, Damascus, Oregon. And Commissioners, I wanted to continue my testimony from last week. I mentioned the difficulty I've had with getting answers via email from Commissioner Schrader to some questions regarding her rationale for her public statements, multiple absences, and her priorities. My first email went out February 8th of this year with a follow-up by me on February 27th. As I mentioned last week, up to that day, March 16th, there was silence from her end. Then during Commissioner Schrader's commissioner comments, she defended herself by saying how much work she did in directing ARPA funds to the county, complimented herself, to which the chair embellished upon. Getting back to why no response, the chair offered up that the tech department and policy advisors were possible reasons for the failure of the commissioner getting emails at times. Simply asking Ms. Schrader if she received my email was not in the mix. Hours after last week's business meeting, I received an email from Commissioner Schrader's office inviting me for coffee. I responded that I merely wanted her response by email. Then on March 21st, she offered to meet with me in her office. I declined and requested yet again for an email response. Then I received back, quote, I do see you're asking for a reply via email. However, Commissioner Schrader will not be responding to these various questions and topics via email. Our offer stands to have you join her for coffee or an office visit. A simple email from February 8th, and now it's March 23rd, and I'm stonewalled. It appears there was never the intention by her to answer my inquiry. On a larger scale, what does this mean? Her indifference is allowable because that attitude is considered standard operating procedure by some on this commission. From my perspective, connecting with the concerns of constituents is important for credibility, no matter if it is uncomfortable. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, Tony.
We will continue with, I apologize, I only have the last name, Kay Longwell. Please state your name and area of residence. You will have 2 minutes.
Hello, my name is Cannon Longwell, and I am a lifelong resident of Canby in Clackamas County. I am also an employee of Northwest Family Services and the Children of Incarcerated Parents program. I'm here to urge Chair Smith to reconsider her vote and go through with Project Turnkey. I and many of the people here this morning are here because we have the courage to imagine a better world and the hope to continually work towards it. There are people right now today who are hungry and cold and have no place to go. These people are not an abstract idea of a homeless person. These are our friends, our family, and our neighbors. Before working with the Children of Incarcerated Parents program, I worked with former foster youth. I had one client, a young man, who was a veteran as well as a cancer survivor. He had no family and he had nowhere to go. For weeks, we waited for an apartment application to go through so that this person could finally have the space to recover from necessary surgeries. Veterans, the chronically ill, mothers and children fleeing from domestic violence, these are the people our community should be more supportive of. These are the people who will be served by Project Turnkey, and these are the people that you are letting down. This failure in our system can no longer be glossed over or pushed aside. Right now, today, we have the power to take a step forward towards a world where homelessness is temporary and rare. That is the world that I want to live in. That is the world I want my children to live in. We are facing a chance to create a place where people on the street can be sheltered, connected with necessary services, and prepared to transition into permanent housing. Please do not turn your back on this chance. Please do not turn your back on our most vulnerable neighbors. Please go through with Project Turnkey. Thank you.
Up next.
Continuing with Kathleen Joy Anderson. Please state your name and area of residence. You will have 2 minutes.
My name is Kathy Anderson. I reside in unincorporated Clackamas County. I'm the chair of the Missions and Social Justice team at Kairos Milwaukee United Church of Christ in Milwaukee. We are a very small congregation, but like so many others, we recognize the urgency of doing something about homelessness. And so we were very excited when we heard that the commission had approved the Project Turnkey purchase, and were appalled to learn about the reversal of that. It was like a slap in the face to so many people who have worked so hard over years to try to find answers and solutions. And it's just unconscionable. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next.
Continuing the list, I have Michelle Vinkner. Please state your name and area of residence. You will have 2 minutes.
Hello, Commissioners and Chair Smith. My name is Michelle Vinker, and after being a longtime resident of Clackamas County, I now live in Gresham. So why am I here? I am here because I have a son who lives in Clackamas County and is homeless. He wants to be housed, but unlike what you just said, Chair Smith, after years of not having shelter, there's still nothing available for him. I'll be waiting to hear from you how he can get housed now. My son is handsome, smart, and caring. I will never forget visiting him in the woods where he lives. He was so proud to show me the little Douglas fir that he saved when he removed the ivy and blackberries that were strangling it. But I believe he is living with an undiagnosed mental health issue that makes it impossible for him to work and afford housing. I currently work for Family Promise, a small homeless shelter for families. Did you know that in the last publicly available data, there were 1,147 students in Clackamas County identified as being homeless? Shelters can mean a child is able to be picked up and attend school, not to mention a place to shower and do homework. It's the first step in getting those kiddos housed, is often getting shelter where their parents can focus on overcoming the barriers that they are facing when trying to find permanent housing. I want to share an analogy with you that helped me understand this homelessness. Imagine you are giving a birthday party for your 6-year-old grandchild. You're going to play a party favorite, musical chairs. As the game begins, the first kid to become chairless has a sprained ankle. Next kid is just too anxious to concentrate on the game and play it effectively, so he's the next one out. At the end, a fast, large, confident child is in the last seat available. You can say that disability or lack of physical strength caused the individual kids to end up being chairless, but the only reason anyone was without a chair is because there weren't enough of them. Examining who specifically becomes homeless can tell important stories of individual vulnerability created by disability, poverty, domestic violence, and divorce. When we have a dire shortage of affordable housing like we do in Clackamas County, it is all but guaranteed that a certain number of people will be homeless. Housing scarcity is the underlying cause of homelessness. We know that. Getting families and individuals into shelter and moving towards stable housing as soon as possible is absolutely imperative. The purchase of this shelter is just one small step towards doing that. I ask you, Chair Smith, please change your vote so that people like my son can work towards getting housing. Thank you.
Tony, who's next?
That is the end of the list of registered participants. I would ask anyone who wishes to testify, please use the raise hand feature, and I will call on you in the order received. I will begin with Kelly Lennox. Please state your name and area of residence. You will have 2 minutes.
My name is Kelly Lennox. I am a property owner in unincorporated Clackamas County and part of Oak Grove United Methodist Church. A few minutes ago, you said something like, nobody who wants to be housed is left on the streets. At best, that is denial. That statement is wrong today, it was wrong yesterday, and it will remain wrong tomorrow. Untrue in this county and in this state. Each time you say that is a slap in the face to every child and adult who is on the street right now while we advocate for them from our dry, heated spaces. Your own county data contradict you. The people who oppose Project Turnkey today opposed it a month ago. This county has never made its planning decisions based solely on the preferences of adjoining property owners. Why have you chosen to start now? I cede the rest of my time.
Up next, Tony.
Last call. If you wish to testify on this matter, please use the raise hand feature, and I will call on you in the order received. Madam Chair, I do not have any hands raised.
Thank you very much. There are many questions that have been asked, and I know this commission would like a chance to answer those, and I would appreciate if you would give us that opportunity as we so graciously gave the opportunity to you. If we're going to solve this problem of homelessness, we're going to need everyone, regardless of your political background, pulling in the same direction. It's too critical not to get this right. And the last caller said that we're making our decision, it's the first time we've ever made this decision by a group of people in the neighborhood. That is not true. We have tried to cite Project Turnkey in almost every single city in this county. They have all said no, except for Oregon City, which they don't have a hotel to offer. We have tried it. We've been working on this probably a year and a half, and every community has said no. We tried very hard with this particular community, and then what I came to the realization is our communications didn't really work that well in explaining what the program has to offer and how we're going to help resolve the homeless situation with not only housing, but wraparound services as well. And as more as I hear about that, I think we need to approach the homeless situation differently. We are not the Portland model in Clackamas County. And that is a theme that has been consistent in every person that I've talked to. It is very clear that a significant percentage of the people were not on board with this location. Although the 30 or so people in this room and the few people online were in agreement, I do appreciate that. I do appreciate your support. And the statements that I made previously regarding homelessness stand today. Solving homelessness is not dependent on one hotel with 100 rooms. It just is not. I was being asked to discuss a larger plan in order to get everyone on the same page. I have listened to everyone. I have listened to you. I have listened to the people who were against this. I have listened to public officials across the entire state of Oregon. And the best path forward is to begin with a three-pronged approach that I set out yesterday, and you can read it online. And that is, with the help of my commissioners, we're going to start this next Wednesday in a planning session. A series of summits with you all and everybody else who are paying these taxes in Clackamas County. Yes, Clackamas County citizens are paying taxes for the SHS homeless program. However, please keep in mind, Clackamas County citizens voted no. And it's those citizens who overwhelmingly voted no on it is who we're hearing from. The reason why it passed is we're conjoined with Multnomah and Washington counties, and therefore it passed. And that may really seem unfair to the people who opposed it, but that's the way it is. If people don't like the fact that we're being joined with Multnomah and Washington County by paying higher taxes, then the citizens need to help us do something about that, border and boundary line with Metro. So we're going to address causation and accountability, and a housing first model tends to leave that to the wayside. Additionally, we're going to convene a Blue Ribbon Commission because that has not been done before in this county, where every expert that we can think of can come in and say, this will work, this will work, this will work. And regarding Measure 110, drug addiction and mental illness is a cause of homelessness. I never said it was the main cause. And to ignore that, elected leaders would be remiss in their duties. Commissioners, do we have any other comments? Commissioner Scholl, would you like to go?
Chair, I'll hold my comments until Commissioner comments at the end.
Oh, well, this is Commissioner comments, basically. Yeah, if you want to go ahead.
Okay, good. Yes, good morning, Clackamas County, and thank you everyone for coming in this morning to testify. Your opinions are very valuable, and they do affect the decisions made by this board. On legislation, there's a number of bills that I've received a lot of phone calls on. I'd like to share them with you this morning. One is Senate Bill 655, which would reduce or freeze property tax values for senior citizens and disabled people. Take a look at Senate Bill 655. Also, universal health care, Senate Bill 704. Look at that. If it passes, will it help your family or will it hinder your family's health care situation? Targeted property tax freeze on new homes. This is Senate Bill 847. If this passes, those of you who want to build an accessory dwelling unit on your property would receive a 5-year freeze in your property taxes. This is to spur the much-needed housing we need in Clackamas County. Also, another couple bills that I want to bring to your attention is House Bill 2004. It's a ranked choice voting, which would, if passed, institute ranked choice voting for the President of the United States. And also House Bill 3509, if passed, would institute ranked choice voting for your elected nonpartisan state offices, county offices, and city offices. And on parental rights, I'd like to bring your attention to House Bill 2002, which if passed could have some negative effects on parents' involvement in decision-making in your children's health care. And I want to also bring something to your attention. TriMet is doing a study on fentanyl on mass transit. They're doing this study with the state of Washington. I recommend you look into that study and give TriMet your opinion on how you see the use of drugs on mass transit as contributing to a safe journey. Be involved. On the threat of tolling, you might already know Senator Mark Meeks has a bill in front of the legislature at this time that, if passed, would restrict tolling. But the problem is, if it does pass, the governor can veto it. So right now, for those of you who are concerned about the threat of tolling and the negative effect on your business or your family's bank account, go to votebeforetolls.org, get involved with IP4 and the petition to put tolling in front of you, the people of this state. Okay, now, on this issue we have in front of us this morning. As you know, we have stopped the Quality Inn, and at this time, after seeing billions of tax dollars being spent across this nation on the homeless problem, on drug issues and addiction and mental health, we have considered this, and this board now wants to look at a new paradigm of treatment first. Treatment first, okay? We heard from Mr. John Barnes and his testimony this morning. I'm a father. I know the love a father has for his sons. And we see a great effort in the region to support housing first. But I hear reports all the time that there's not enough support to treat addiction and mental health. And that's something, please, ladies and gentlemen, that's something that this board's concerned about. On how do we do a full spectrum response to this problem we have? Well, one of the problems we have is the flow of drugs coming up Interstate 5 into our region. That's got to be stopped. The only people who can stop that are the folks that we send to the U.S. Congress. We need their help. Also, we see the effects of Measure 110. It's not positive. We need our state legislature to take action to repeal Measure 110. Measure 110 has taken the wind out of the sails of our deputies and our police in pushing back these drugs. These drugs are now moving closer and closer to our children and to our neighborhoods. Who would have thought 5 years ago that you would need to have Narcan in your grade schools? And finally, the intent of this board to learn from the mistakes of the states, counties, and cities, and to be innovative in our efforts to beat the drug crisis, to help those in need who are on the streets in a way that reflects respect for the taxpayers and the businesses in order to restore and maintain an environment in Clackamas County that is a safe place to raise a family and to provide and run a business, and to restore true hope to those who are on the street, and to give them a chance to regain their dignity, self-respect, and a fruitful, productive life. Sincerely, that is what we're looking at. On the housing issue, Clackamas County is providing a great deal of support to our people in this county. H3S housing staff and our housing authority continue to provide tens of millions of dollars in support to those in need through our low-income housing, our affordable housing, our rapid housing program, our rental assistance, and our vouchers. Portland, the region that has been focused on housing first, and yes, there are some good points to that, but that's been the focus. And what progress are we actually making in the region? I submit to you all that this county is concerned and working to alleviate this homeless problem through our housing efforts. But again, we want to be a county who is looking forward, learning from the lessons and the failures of the past, and begin to look at a treatment first, a very, what I consider to be a very compassionate model for solving this problem. And one final thing. Recently, the city of Portland, who have been struggling with this problem for a long time, reached out to some 1,700 homeless people, offered them a safety off-the-street place to stay. 170 out of 1,700 accepted the safety off-the-street bed, and only a few accepted addiction treatment and mental health counseling. And I submit to you, the reason that happened is because of the overwhelming, absolute control that methamphetamine and fentanyl takes of a person who is involved with these drugs. Again, I thank everybody who came here today to express your opinion. It's valuable, and it does have an effect on the decisions this board makes. And working together in the future is my hope that we can have a county that is safe for all people, and homelessness will become a thing of the past, God willing. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner West, you're up.
I want to thank all of you guys for coming on a school day in the middle of a work week to come and share your thoughts with us. We have some points of agreement between us and you. Continue to dialogue with me on Twitter. Maybe we'll grab coffee. Totally open to that. My cell phone's readily available. Y'all can call me. We work for you and the rest of the people in this county. But and this board, as you see it today, has existed, what, 78 days? 79 days? Less than 90 days have it been on this job. And the voters, I believe, made a clear mandate about how they wanted us to govern. And it is in a way that is not what we've seen hollow out our urban communities up and down the West Coast. It is not in a way that watched my childhood home neighborhood become an open-air drug den full of needles that my child could never play in those parks any longer. It's not walking down the streets of Portland like an episode of The Walking Dead. It is not what this state has been historically, and they do not want us to govern in the way that continues to perpetuate and enable those chronic and persistent problems. But we have to solve it. Because this has been going on for a long time. Portland's been in decay, the greater metro area has been in decay, San Francisco, Seattle, British Columbia have been in decay because of bad policy, election cycle after election cycle, with no accountability. You know, I like to tell people why I'm a nurse, and I've said this over and over again, but as a nurse, I'm called to care for people. I'm called to look at the evidence before me, triage the situation, and care for them. As an elected official, it informs my work as an elected. And we may not all agree with what is the cause of homelessness or what are the driving factors. But this board, I don't believe that housing is the primary cause of homelessness. And I do believe it is a myth that the homelessness crisis is caused by rents and poverty. It is an aspect. But if we triage the situation and we look at like where we are today, if we say, you know, what is the truth? We can go outside and walk in some of our streets and we can see what has become to our communities and see clearly what has happened. We've spent tens and millions of dollars in the Portland area and Oregon on housing first policies, and we've been doing that probably since 2010, 2012, and the problem continues to explode. As a nurse, I know what it's like to have a patient before me that has a drug problem on the streets and then watch them OD on a hardwood floor because they were given 4 walls, but they weren't given the care or the treatment that they need. I wish we had this same turnout on Project Turnkey when Governor Brown, the unions, and protectionism closed and chased away $50 million private investment of a hospital in Wilsonville that community was not being NIMBY about, but my council and our mayor fully supported 100 beds with an emergency department for those that were the most ill with mental illness in our community. But Governor Brown, the status quo, turned that away and made it impossible for that asset to be built. I wish we had that same turnout, Chair. Because with all these supportive housing service dollars that we have now, imagine what we could do with a $50 million hospital investment in our county. Wow, that's amazing. I wish we had that same vigor to help people with treatment, prevention, and recovery. Another big piece of this is the harm reduction ideology that has been a major problem in our community. A drug counselor that's become a good friend and a counselor to me and helps me figure out innovative ways to deal with these solutions says to me, you know what, Ben, harm reduction seems to be really, really high on harm, but really, really light on reduction. It seems to be all harm, no reduction. Harm reduction in its philosophy and how it's implemented in many places and portions within that ideology tell addicts that they're likely never going to recover, so we're just going to help them to use safely. We'll pat them on the back and give them palliative care while we give them foil and straws and needles to continue to be addicted. I was just in Seattle at working on some homeless recovery issues up in Seattle and homelessness. The foil flowing down the streets were like the leaves in fall. You couldn't walk beyond a business stoop without somebody in the fentanyl stupor. I did a 14-hour ride-along with one of our sheriffs. Fentanyl was almost always involved. I had to sit down with my 17-year-old son the other day because I'm afraid that fentanyl's in his school and have a real talk for about an hour with him about what it was. Dad, I don't know what that is. What do you mean? I go, I don't. And all the child has to do in our community is try something and it will kill them because it's laced with fentanyl. And to pretend that it's just about housing and to ignore those glaring issues that have rotted our communities out, I don't have patience for it. But I am wanting to get to work. And things that we're going to be proposing are innovative and different and aren't really being done in many places in the West Coast. But Clackamas County, we were elected to chart a new way that is recovery-oriented, that cares for people in the continuum of care and where they're at. That includes detox. That includes mental health treatment, acute care. That includes transitional housing. That includes recovery communities that are built in a way that are designed for the addict or those struggling with mental illness to get the specific care they need that is human, that deals with the human element that they are struggling with. That is what that is about. When we say these words up here, and if you watched all our public meetings, you would learn that is what we are talking about. That is the strategy that is bigger than one hotel. What we want to do is get people self-sufficient, whole, and healed again. And you may not agree with me on this hotel and the other large number of people within this county that do not like that have a difference of opinion than you do. We all have to coexist. They have a difference of opinion. But being here for less than 90 days, let me tell you, we are moving at warp speed to try to figure this out in a way that's not being done and it's been failing over and over again, and we don't want to do it the same way. We don't want to say the same thought leaders that created the problem are going to have all the answers to fix it. So yeah, we're going to take a second and bring in some of the best and the brightest while also continuing to do the work. So, the political status quo in Oregon and the greater Portland, Oregon area and up and down the West Coast, we have deprived addicts, those with mental illness, and those with real struggles from being self-sufficient. And we have not acted with the urgency because it perpetuates over and over again. I'm going to ask you to challenge us continuously, to even disagree with us, to bring your dialogue. And I believe together as Clackamas County, as we put our heads together in a local way, we can solve local problems, even if we weren't the ones who created them. I don't know. I really, really care about this issue. I've dedicated a large portion of my career to it. I've cared for this population. There's innovative bills right now in the legislature that we're backing as a board that help kids transition from foster care into education and permanency. There is creative housing bills that are much more affordable, where we might be able to implement some of that locally, that help with the housing issue as somebody who is just economically displaced and isn't struggling with addiction and isn't struggling with mental health. There are creative solutions to do this, and we're going to try to implement them here. I'm not going to always make the right vote or the perfect vote, but I'm going to listen to you guys and do my best. I'm going to try to have integrity as I do it. And I'm not going to impugn your character on wanting to solve this issue, and I hope you know my heart is also to solve it. And I'm sorry we couldn't come to terms together on this one quality and issue, but my God, we are going to work hard at it.
Thank you, Commissioner West. Commissioner Schrader, you're up.
Thank you all for coming today. One of the things I've learned about governance is that you can be a lone vote with something and disagree with your colleagues. I do disagree with my colleagues here on the turnkey project. We did have a 2018 housing group that went through all of this with thought leaders, and the documentation is there. We didn't do turnkey 1.0, but we prepared ourselves to do turnkey 2.0. And turnkey 1.0 pretty much has been a success statewide, not just a Portland issue. It's been successful in Douglas County, Jackson County, Klamath County, Lane County, Lincoln County, Marion County, Benton County, Deschutes, Coos. Multnomah does have some too. Yep, Umatilla, Washington County, and Yam Hill. And the data shows there are 19 turnkey properties, 13 counties statewide, which provided 865 new housing units. So it's a proven methodology that can work. I am very sad about this, but I also have an ethos that I will always be respectful towards my colleagues when I disagree with them. So colleagues, I'm going to respectfully disagree. I think this project was ready to go. I think we could have worked, I like Commissioner, my enthusiastic new commissioner's idea of looking at making sure that we have the appropriate treatment available for people, because when people are addicted, they're not rational, and they need to have, this is just my opinion, a structure in order to help beat that addiction. So for me, whether you call it housing first or whether you call it treatment oriented, I'm all for the treatment piece. I was elated and now I'm deflated, I guess, is what I have to say to all of you. And I wish this had turned out differently. I was also aware that Kaiser was reaching out to our H3S folks to make sure that there was a medical opportunity and kind of center or spot. They were asking our H3S folks to apply for a grant to see if, again, we could implement some of those opportunities for people who needed it. It's a tough decision to make because there is opposition. The opposition, as we know, is because people who are surviving on the streets exhibit behaviors that people are very afraid of because they're surviving. And oftentimes, you know, the addiction is a survival methodology too. I mean, I guess if you're cold and you take a drug, maybe you forget you're cold. I don't know. I can't answer that. In any case, I wish it could be different. I want to thank you all for coming. I will also continue to pledge to work with my colleagues who I am elected to serve with, whether I disagree or agree with them, to continue to try the solution of this problem. I knew turnkey was going to work because I was on the bottom floor of bringing turnkey to the legislature. I don't know if my colleagues knew that or not, that this was actually part of a conversation at the Association of Oregon Counties with our County Solutions Group that first moved this forward. And it was tough. It was a tough row to hoe to get that passed, but now that it has passed and we're in 2.0, we are showing success for it. So thank you for coming. I do respect all my colleagues. I make a effort not to put the individuals and the colleagues I'm elected to serve with in a bad spot. But I have made it clear that I do disagree with this, and I wish the vote could have been different. So thank you, Commissioner Shull, Commissioner West, and Chair Smith. We will disagree on this, but we are going to have to continue to govern together one way or the other because there's no other way to do this. And sometimes it's your job to take the tomatoes, and I kind of feel like that with this a little bit. So if this isn't going to happen, I do hope, Commissioner West, your enthusiasm will move something forward that is workable. I do think we're missing a significant opportunity, though, right now, and I think it's a proven model. And thank you for being here and expressing your opinion. And to those people who are fearful of it, again, I always bring us back to the Veterans Village. We got the same pushback with that. And once we got people stabilized and housed, they've been moving it. It is a model that works. It is a model that works. So thank you all for coming here. This has been a very hard issue for me and a hard day.
Thank you, Commissioner Schrader and commissioners. Yes, it is our duties as elected to take the tomatoes, and I certainly took my share of them today. I want to thank you for your opinions. We look forward to a lively conversation. Moving forward, seeing no further business before this commission, we are adjourned.